Nice shirt. She went to your rally.
I know.
I'm flexible whenever. I'm ready whenever.
Probably do like 15-20 minutes or something.
I'm totally great. Just glad it's not at 8 o'clock.
That's fine.
Yeah. I'm gonna get up there.
You try.
I feel like you have to do something for diatribe. You guys might know what diatribe, but I do. So, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to HD6. And if you would please fill out and get turned in the little question for, would you take that around and get them? For you to be able to get one of our fabulous door prizes. And you have to turn it in with your name on it to get a prize. And you have to be here, or because I'm not going to hold them for you. And one thing I would ask all of you is please leave the pens on the table. Don't take them home, because we slowly but surely run out of pens. So, all right. Thank you very much. Our good friend Josh is going to come around to get those door prize tickets for you to turn in. Ladies and gentlemen, I also would like for you to think about requests that I have. I would really like to have a couple of people that would be able to get to these meetings a little early and would be able to say they would be here to help open the door or man the front desk, because a lot of times we don't have enough people here. So if you could commit to that, I would really appreciate it. Just let me know after the meeting that you'd be interested. Because I didn't want to, have a live mic.
I think I got everybody, but I also did pull something. Shanice Malou.
Why?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out if to use something. Mom. Is that dress and there's dress?
Yeah. Well, we're going to kind of make it a little bit. Oh, thank you. I have to hold it the other way, though. Otherwise, people think I'm So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to do our first 2 door prizes. And, so, would you, Darwin? Barb Schmidt, where are you sitting? Where is she? Oh, come on up here, Barb. She put down 3 things. She couldn't pick just one. Do you want to say what they are? Mountains, golf, swimming. I'm going to tell you take one. I'm going to tell you my favorite summer activity. My real favorite summer activity is actually going to a park and having like something to eat, like maybe ice cream. And I love that. It's so. All right, let's get another person. Yeah. Oh, Gail Marcus. Do you remember what you put?
You bet.
I love going to Valley View Hot Springs in the San Luis Valley. Woo!
All right.
Thank you. You're welcome. All right. And we'll do the rest of it.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Andrew Fisher. I'm the captain of House District 6A. My first and regrettable duty is to give you some bad news. A few minutes ago, I texted Michael Doherty saying, hey, just want to make sure you're still coming. Apparently, he has a head cold, and he told a campaign staffer to reach out, and that did not happen. So he is not coming tonight. He will be here next month. So we're going to move up Caitlin Schneider at CFI, but not quite yet. First, Mark, you're up.
30 seconds. I got to choose this pair. Okay. Welcome everybody to our, what month is this? May HD6 meeting. We appreciate you being here. I had probably 6 or 7 calls today. I'll watch this on YouTube or Facebook or whatever. It's too cold and nasty out for me to come. I'm like, it's Colorado. It could be snowing today. Like, get real. You know who I'm talking to that's on YouTube. Anyway, thank you for being here. First of all, I want to give a thank you to everybody who brought food. Oh, you're back here. Shanice, our co-captain in 6A, did the lasagnas. Where's Kathy hiding? I hear her voice. Kathy Wilson, our other co-captain in 6B, did the salad and the bread. Where is Natalie? There you are. Natalie's one of our newest people. Was last month your first meeting? She came last month, first meeting, and she brought food. And I was like, wow, nobody ever comes to the first meeting and brings food. And then we talked yesterday, or we texted, and she said, well, I'll be there and I'll bring fruit. And I said, that would be awesome. So we love you. Have we made you a PO yet?
She's waiting.
Karen's not doing her job. Let's see. Tamara. Tamara? You say Tamara, I say Tamara. And what do you say? Okay, you win. She brought veggies and dip. Thank you very much.
And she is our very newest PO.
What precinct?
Precinct is 621. The same one as
Myrna?
Yeah, same one as Myrna. But
Well, welcome.
yeah.
Have you met Myrna?
No, not yet.
She's great. She's got tons of energy. Where's Randy? Thank you for the birthday brownies. Every month, Randy makes brownies, and I don't really care about all the cakes. I love his brownies, so thank you. And then I do most of the desserts, and this month I did the potatoes. Well, I will make you some just for you. All right, so did I miss anybody that brought food? Okay, good. So next month I have 6 people signed up to bring food. I see 1, 2, 3, 4. So there must be 2 people that aren't here that are bringing food. No, I counted you. So we'll be fine for next month. We have no meeting in July because we do our summer picnic, which is July 19th, 21st, something like that.
I believe it's the 19th.
It's on a Sunday. 19th? Okay, whatever that Sunday is. I think it's the 19th, but maybe not. So every year we do our summer picnic, ice cream social. That's at Lowry Sports Park, which is a great lawn park, and it's go up Lowry Boulevard heading toward Aurora. The ice arena is on one side of the street, south side. The entrance to get into the park is right across the street. And we're at the picnic area, which is right at the beginning. And we always have a lot of fun at that. We used to do a barbecue, and we made our state rep and our state senator do all the grilling, but they didn't like that idea, so we'll stick with other foods.
It's Sunday, July 13th.
Oh, Sunday, July 13th. Thank you. So we'll be sending out a notice probably in a few weeks to let you know when it is, where it is, what time. And there'll be a link to get your tickets. And we hope to see a lot of people there. All right, two things that I do every time we have a meeting, and I actually do this even at other House District meetings. How many people in this room, raise your hand, are Century Club members? About a third.
What does that mean?
I'll let Jan explain that to you.
No, explain what Century Club is.
You guys
We
yell,
have time.
you yell at me because I go too long. Now she wants me to stretch.
No. We have a few minutes to tell us
Fine.
something about this.
I'm not shy.
Because she doesn't know.
So Century Club is the largest fundraiser for the Denver Democratic Party. We have different levels. We have the basic level, which is $10 a month that you sign up for on your credit card. It just automatically takes $10 out every month. You can do, that's the basic. You can do Victory level, which is $45 a month. You can do couples, which is $20 a month. You can do Millennium level, which is $90 a month. Or you can just pay one time per year and do it annually. And then it's $100, $200, $500, and $1,000. And I know that sounds like a lot of money, but we had 3 people in February sign up for the Millennium level and wanted to just pay it right there. So that was $3,000 that we raised from 3 people. And their logic was, I'm so fed up with that idiot in the White House, I got to do something, and I have the money right now, so let me do it all at once. So if you are interested in joining Century Club, there are flyers on the front table. I do chair that for the county. Right now, we're doing pretty good. We're kind of right at where we budgeted we would be. But it has slowed down in the last month. It was crazy in January and February. I think people were over the shock of, God, I can't think of what I can call him. I refuse to use his name. And if you watch The View on ABC at 10 o'clock in the morning, Whoopi Goldberg refuses to call his name either. So now you know what I do at 10 in the morning. Or I record it. So Century Club is our largest fundraiser for the county. The goal this year is to raise $58,000. Right now, we're about a fourth of the way through, and I think we're at 20, maybe 23,000. So we are slightly ahead of the goal, but we need to pick it back up. And if what's going on in this country doesn't motivate you to get more involved, then I'm going to have to seriously take your pulse and see if you're alive. Because this is insane what we are living through. Any questions on Century Club? Okay. The other thing I'm going to do that I do every month, we need to get donations for HD6. All the money that we raise here for House District 6 goes to our account, not the county party, and that is allowing us to have food at events and put out a lot of different things. So if you want to donate tonight to House District 6, did you put BREs on all the table?
BREs and this code on the table.
So if you want to do cash, fill out a BRE. Can somebody hold up the BRE? Thank you, and you're new. Thank you. Fill that out. You can put cash in there. You can write a check. If you do a check, make it out to DPOD, Democratic Party of Denver, and fill out your info. If you have donated before, and I can look around and I know at least half the people in this room have donated before, some every month. I don't need all your info because I already have that. I just need your name, and that's pretty much it. If you want to do credit card, you can either do the QR code that Karen was showing you, or you can fill that out with your credit card, and I will run those later tonight or tomorrow morning. So we would appreciate any funds that we get tonight to help our house district. And let me see here. I don't know how many people came to our house district spring fundraiser last month, but I know some of you were there and outbidding others on silent auction events.
And winning.
Huh?
And winning.
And winning? What did you win?
The wiser stuff.
Oh, well.
Now I'm going to win the wiser stuff.
Yeah, it was fun to watch people outbidding each other. We had about 60 people there. And I got a lot of feedback from people about the new location. We should definitely go back there next year. They were great to work with. They were very accommodating. It was a lot of fun. And then when it finally ended and everybody left, Stu, raise your hand. Stu and I stayed there to watch the Nuggets game. Or was it the Avalanche? Which one did we watch? Nuggets. And of course the game went into overtime. I'm like, I could walk home from here. I live 3 blocks away, but it was too much fun with everybody there at the bar. So we are very appreciative of everybody who bought tickets and our sponsors that bought sponsorship tickets and everybody that donated for the silent auction and everybody that bid on the silent auction. We did very well last month, so thank you. So I've already mentioned our summer picnic is July 13th, 2 to 4 o'clock. I had somebody ask me when they came here tonight, what about tickets for the state party dinner and tickets for the Denver dinner? So the Denver dinner is August 23rd. We haven't even put out anything except save the date. That will be at Mile High Station, which is right by, I think it's right by Meow Wolf, and across the street from, I think it's called Raices. That's a new location for us. So we're pretty excited about that. We're still looking for a keynote speaker. If anybody knows Jasmine Crockett from Texas, please send her to me. I will pay for her flight to get here. She's my hero. And as far as the state party dinner, that's May 31st. Unfortunately, if you didn't get a ticket in the first 36 hours, it's sold out right away. And I think it's probably because the keynote speaker is Elizabeth Warren. I've had people offer to pay me like $500 for my ticket, and I'm like, hell no, I'm going to the dinner. So I'm excited. We have a whole table. And the same day, if you're interested in going to this, from 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock is Dem Fest, which will be down at the the Sewell Ballroom, that whole building. There'll be a lot of candidates there with tables, speaking. It's a lot of fun. You get to meet a lot of people. So you should definitely consider doing that. And I have to read 2 short letters, in case you haven't noticed. Sean Camacho, our awesome state representative, is not here. And our newly elected state senator for Senate District 31, Matt Paul, is not here. I can honestly guarantee you they'd rather be here than stuck at the Capitol tonight, probably till midnight. But they both texted me and asked me if I would read their notes.
Just as long as they're short.
Just as long as they're short.
Who said that?
Kathy.
Kathy, it's time for you to go home.
We second that.
Well, that's true. All right. Let's see. Here's Matt's text. It starts out, "Help, please help. I'm trapped in the Capitol fighting with Republicans about trans rights, rideshare, companies, fascism, and a whole lot more that's enough to make you crazy. I think I'm starting to lose my hair." He is, too. I noticed that the other day. "I would rather be eating delicious home-cooked meals at HD6's meeting with all of you. Keep up the good fight, stay involved, and I look forward to seeing all of you at the June meeting." So thank you, Matt. And Sean's. All right, here's Sean's. "Howdy, HD6ers. It's Sean, your state rep. I'm really sorry I can't make it to tonight's meeting. There are some critical votes going on tonight at the Capitol that I need to be present for. I hate to miss a chance to connect with all of you, but I know the work you're doing makes me feel so good about House District 6 and everything we do. We are a great House district, very involved. Please keep moving forward. Thank you for everything. Thanks for understanding." Where did I leave off? "Thanks for understanding, and I'm looking forward to providing a robust update at our June meeting. Until then, take care, check out our latest newsletter, and see you soon. We are done by midnight tomorrow night."
Wow.
So thank you to Sean and Matt. I truly love them both. I think I'm so proud of the job they've done. I'm down at the Capitol a lot. And I text both of them all day when I'm watching it on channel 165. And they're good. They respond back pretty fast. So I think we're very lucky to have two such awesome people. So thank you.
So, Mark had his birthday on Sunday. Yeah, Sunday, the 4th of May. And
May the 4th be with you.
no, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to sing him happy birthday.
Yay!
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mark. Happy birthday to you.
It's a trick candle. I don't know.
Oh.
So,
Is it a gift certificate?
no, I gave money to
Do I get to
HD6.
pick one of these?
So
Thank
one
you.
thing I want to bring everybody's attention to real quick, and then we're going to have our next speaker, is there is a Dash for Democracy. It's going to be at City Park, and it's in August. And if you look on the Denver Dems website, it's on there. And if you're ready to register tonight, this QR code will be over there on that table by the donations. And we'd really love to have everyone there. It's great fun.
It blew up last year.
got so big so fast, and they're so excited for this.
Yeah, we're hoping that this one is going to be giant, huge, where the Denver, all the newspapers and the press will come in and say, wow, you're so great. So that's what we want.
Karen, you want to do 2 more of these?
Yes, let's do 2 more. Go ahead, Phil.
No,
Okay.
it's a little violent. What do you think?
It's enthusiastic.
Okay.
Mike? Rubridge? Mike? Rubridge, I think. Oh,
Hey.
hi. Oh, see, it's not even fixed. It's okay. That's Mike Rubridge, and I'm going to pick one on the top.
What was his favorite activity?
Oh, yeah. What was his favorite activity? I didn't even know. Oh, he only picked 2: fishing and cycling. Yeah. Well, you have to come to our Dash for Democracy because that means you're in good enough shape to at least walk it with me. I do a walk, not a run. Okay. Oh, and this. Oh, Kelly, Rocky, come on up here, and you got to tell what you did, what you wrote.
I wrote stargazing. Yay!
There's one more, and we'll get to that at the end.
Aw, thanks.
Do you want to introduce Eagle? Eagle.
Oh, and next is Eagle, our good friend Eagle. I forget what his real name is. Okay, and he is the captain at large for the Denver Dems for public policy councils.
Yeah. What's up, Denver Democrats? Thank you, HD6, for your hospitality and breaking bread with me. I definitely appreciate it, and I appreciate your time tonight. My name is really Elijah Lewis, but I go by Eagle. I've, like many of you, at the base of everything I do, I'm a PO as well for 215 in House District 2, which is kind of over by 9 News off of Spear. I still, walk a block, throw out sample ballots, do the texting, all the things that POs do. I've been involved with the Denver Dems Energy and Environment Policy Study Group as a chair for several years now. And I also got involved with the state initiative, and I've also gotten involved with the National Climate Crisis Council. And so I'm basically an environmentalist. Well, there were other policy study groups like healthcare, education, criminal justice, that kind of became defunct in the last couple of years because their chairs went on to do other things, and there was no one in the position that I have now. As we all know, there's a lot of negative energy from what happened in November, and a lot of people are really inspired to see what more can I do besides donating to Century Club. And everyone has an issue. Everyone has their thing that probably drives them in politics. Some people are all about education. Some people might be about healthcare. Well, I am rebooting those groups, and there's also been a sense of in our party that, besides voting, we all put our values and ideas into a platform and try to tell the world, like, this is what we believe in, this is what we advocate for. And sometimes our elected officials don't necessarily go that route. And so what the new groups are going to be called are called the Platform Policy Councils instead of policy study groups. A lot of this is about monitoring ongoing legislation. It's about advocating for different kinds of projects. It's about really, like a lot of the groups over the years, whether it was the environment group or the criminal justice group, have always brought in like subject matter experts to talk about things, to educate us, right? One of the things I think, I'm sure a lot of you have heard the term like deep canvassing. I think we're at a point now where we really need to get into deep canvassing about furthering the ideals in our platform and advocating for them and making our electeds accountable to them. If you notice on some of the tables, there's a sheet that says public policy with a QR code that will get you to the webpage.
but it's real simple. On the Denver Democrats website, there's an issues tab among the top several. That'll drop you down to where our platform and the different platform policy councils are. One of them is the one I still chair, is environment or it's the Climate Crisis Council. I just last week got voted as state initiative chair for the energy and environment, and we immediately changed our name to the Environment and Climate Crisis Council of the Colorado Democratic Party, which is in line with what the national party is doing, and something that we're trying, like we just had an initiatives meeting last night, and it was agreed that when it comes to policies and issues, these committees that have existed in the party at different levels are called councils. And if it's a immutable affinity group like being African American or LGBTQ, those are called caucuses. So it's mostly to remain consistent for like when we talk to other counties or when we talk to other states. And so in Denver, besides resurrecting the 3 groups that went defunct, we've also started a couple more groups. Healthcare obviously covers healthcare in our platform. Education covers education in our platform. And criminal justice has been changed to social justice. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that if you think about criminal justice issues, at their heart, they're really social justice issues. And we like to try to do the preemptive strike so it doesn't become criminal justice issues. And so that's how that group is evolving. Another group we started, I originally called Municipal Civics. Nobody liked it. It's called Urban Planning now. And it deals with the obvious stuff of infrastructure, housing, affordable housing, and things of that nature. And then the other group I call is Labor and Economic Development. And obviously, you know, workers' rights, organized labor, property taxes or any taxation, business development issues. And so those are the 6 groups, and they all meet once a month to start. They're all over the calendar. None of them compete with each other. They meet virtually via Zoom through an Eventbrite link, like a lot of things that we do at the party. And their main goal is to monitor legislation and see if it fits our values, and if it doesn't, try to escalate it up through the Denver Executive Committee, and we can take more action on it, hopefully quicker than we had in the past, which was some of the criticisms of the old policy study groups, is that they really had no teeth. So we're trying to find ways to make it so when they do see something that they can react, and it's a much quicker process than it's been. And our leadership, James Reyes is an awesome chair. He's trying to move our party forward in terms of digital presence. Scott Mangino, who's our tech guy, has been doing wonderful things with the website, especially with the public policy pages. Betty Garcia is a great comms cow. So we're definitely trying to, you know, be true to the roots of who we are, but modernize our digital presence so we can get more people engaged with more tools. Like before, the groups used to just meet at the old office on South Broadway once a month, and then COVID came and we transferred to a Zoom situation. And so now we, you know, we're trying to find ways to get people more engaged, which is why we have a website, we have Slack channels. And so again, if you see the QR codes and you're interested in any of the topics that I talk about, or maybe other topics, please scan the code or go to the website, sign up for the Eventbrite link. We'd love to have you all come and be a part of the process, because this is grassroots advocacy beyond just voting and beyond just participating in platform committee. So again, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see more of each other down the road.
So one of the things that we do need, we really want to have at least 2 people, one from each sub-district, on all of these committees or councils. And one of the things is that these councils, we're not just going to sit around and talk. We are actually going to be taking action. We have some real good action starting already. And I hope that if one of those types of what do you call them?
Issues.
Issues.
Yeah.
If one of those issues are just your thing, where you know a lot about it or you're really interested in it, please, we're going to be passing around sign-up papers at the end of the meeting. Please put your name down.
Oh, if I can say one more thing real quick. So before, we had just a single chair for each group, and admittedly, it was kind of like the old lady knitting circle. There was a lot of people who are of the retirement age. Exactly, and I hope you're making me a great hat because I love great hats. But a lot of the co-chairs we're trying to make from more of the young Democrat category so that we can help bridge the generational divide of ideas and experience. Because we need to bring young people to the polls, right? And then one of those things is giving them a seat at the table and not just say, oh, yeah, you can come along. But, there's a bunch of other people who are already in this position. So I'm purposely trying to bring young people into a position of leadership to be a part of this. And so if I have chairs for most of the groups because it's only been going on for about a month doing the rebooting. I'm looking for a labor and economic chair. But if, like healthcare, education, social justice, almost all of them, we're still looking for a young Democrat. Like we have Levi Griffin for urban planning, who's one of our co-chairs. So I'm putting that word out there. Like if you know young people looking to get involved, please send them our way, and we'll give them a seat at the table.
Yay!
All right. I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Caitlin from Colorado Fiscal Institute, CFI. But while she's getting set up, I'm going to get you guys excited to talk about tax policy. Can I hear it? Woo! Oh, come on, you guys can do better than that. Let's go. All right. Now, the reason I want to get you guys excited about tax policy is because it is, in my opinion, one of the most, if not the most important thing that we all need to collectively be talking about as a Democratic Party. And while she's getting set up, I'm going to share a stat that I think will help infiltrate that message, that narrative into our community. So does anybody here know who Matthew Desmond is? Okay, well, of course you do. I'm not a CPA, so I try to read a fair amount to learn about tax policy because it is complicated. And he does a fantastic way. He's a Pulitzer Prize winner. He's also an economics professor at Columbia, so he's very, he knows his stuff. And basically, his recent work, he points out a very profound statistic. And the stat is, if we were to bring everyone below the poverty line in the United States above the poverty line, it would take about $170 billion a year. That's a lot, right? I mean, for you and I, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
It is. However, he goes on to say, if every single person in the top 1% paid what was due in their taxes, meaning we didn't even levy higher taxes, just what was due, guess how much we would bring in net per year?
$4 trillion.
Is it actually $4 trillion? Oh, it was like, I had my stat wrong. Just under $170 billion. That's basically the gap, right? So with that information and the fact that the top 1% owns 30% of our wealth here in the nation, that seems pretty risky to me. Now, how do we boil that down into community work, right? How do we actually take action to fix this problem? Or at least have it more equitable for the rest of us that rely on public services that those tax funds should pay for? Well, Caitlin is going to tell us all about it. Because here in Colorado, we have some big fish to fry. And I think it's really going to move the needle. So without further ado, Caitlin.
I must say, thank you, Shane, and great stats, because read Matthew Desmond's book. It's really great. There's two of them out right now. This is the second or third time in the last 30 days that I've talked about tax policy after 7:30 in the evening. And I am just astounded that you all are into this. I am ready. So I'm Caitlin Schneider. I'm the outreach director at an organization called the Colorado Fiscal Institute. For those of you who don't know, CFI is a statewide nonprofit where we really advocate to create people-centered policies in the fiscal and tax and budget space. I'm here tonight because I want to talk about the thing that we need to be talking more about, especially in these times right now, is Tabor. And so I'm going to try and keep your attention and not bore you with tax policy, because as Shanice said, a lot of times tax policy isn't something that people go running to or love, except for maybe just a few people in this room. But really, it's important, right? It's at the center of almost everything that we do, how we fund the public programs that we want, how we look at things, and how we can address this giant wealth inequality that we have in this nation. So really important. I'm going to make you all into tax ambassadors tonight. So get ready for it. Like I said, at CFI, let me just try and work my computer. We are a statewide nonprofit that uses research, strategic communications, statewide education to really advocate for tax and budget policies that drive forward a people-centered economy. At CFI, we know the economy isn't just the stock market or how well the 1% is doing, right? It's when we all have enough cash in our hands that we can contribute and use those billions and billions and billions and billions of transactions that we do every day, right? And when we don't have that, that's when the economy does bad. It's not when the stock market falls. It's not when the 1% are asked to pay a little bit more. It's when we don't have access to those funds. So we are the economy. We really are at CFI trying to create a space and a state where we can make sure we can lift everyone up from the bottom, right? We work on a variety of issues that intersect with tax and budget policy, which is almost everything, but really, focus on immigration, worker justice, the environment, housing, and education. So tonight, we're going to talk about the state budget and what we're in, because we are in day 119 of 120 of the state legislative session, and we elect their elected officials. They have one thing that they must do before the 120 days, which is create the state budget, which they have done, but without some turbulent and, hand-wringing. So when we look at the state budget, Colorado operates on a $43.6 billion state budget, okay? That doesn't mean our legislators get to decide how to use all that funds. It's split up into three big buckets. We have our federal funds. This comes from the federal government, as the name implies, right? And they are already earmarked with the different policies that go directly to the state to fund the different priorities that federal funds fund for us, like Medicaid, one of the largest things that the federal government provides. We have cash funds. And so cash funds are, think of them as fees instead of taxes, right? You've been to one of our presentations, right, Sue? So when you hear cash funds, really think fees. So these are the specific fees that we pay on, so groups of people pay for a specific purpose, okay? So it's not general funds, it's cash funds. Things like car registration fees. You pay your car registration fees, that money goes towards implementing and for transportation, right? For how we use our roads. Think fishing license fees, right? Some of our summer favorite activities. We pay our fishing license fees, and it goes to not just like K-12 education, it has to go to making sure that we're protecting our waters and our parks, right? So the parks and wildlife. So those are cash funds. And then the third pot of money, which is about $15.6 billion this year, is the general fund. And this is the fund that our state legislators have the most authority over and get to decide how it's allocated. Okay, and the general fund, when we talk about the general fund, this is really where our state income and sales taxes go into, okay? So if we look at that general fund a little bit closer, here is what those collective dollars buy. K-12 education is about almost 30% of our state budget. Something really interesting this year that we have to take into account is that our healthcare funding is at 32% of the state budget. This is the first time that healthcare funding is bigger than K-12, all right? Mostly because of that increase, not just that increase in population, but healthcare technology is pretty expensive, right? And we keep advancing it, so that baseline of what we need to provide is more expensive. Question? Answered it? All right, and then about 10% goes to higher education, 8% goes to human services, And when I say human services, it's mostly the administration of a lot of those public safety net programs that we provide. Okay? 4.8% of it goes to corrections, 4% of it goes to courts, and then about 11% goes to everything else. Is this surprising? Is this like review for everyone? Hopefully.
So 4.8 is for prisons?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's mostly providing.
So
Yeah.
where does state employment fit?
In the other category.
In the other?
And also like for human services for folks who are like administer TANF and SNAP, that is that funding and that, but it's mostly other for personnel. All right, so we're here today because Colorado is in quite a bit of a budget situation. We've been going around the state talking about this triple threat. Not only is Colorado facing a structural budget deficit, and has been for the last 7 years, meaning that we are not bringing in enough revenue or able to spend enough revenue to keep up with the increased cost of inflation for like schools and healthcare, right? We are looking and staring down the barrel of the federal funding predicament that we're in, right? Where this new administration is going through a federal budget reconciliation process and looking at cutting a lot of important funding that is coming into the state, but also this potential economic downturn, whether it be tariffs or mass layoffs. We don't know what's going to happen to the economy. And so in Colorado, with this structural budget deficit, not only do we have this structural deficit, but we also this year, our legislators had to go through and look at a $1.2 billion budget hole, right? A shortfall, meaning they had to find $1.2 billion in funding that they had to cut instead of being able to fund the programs that we were already providing. We could have about $100 million more if we didn't have a thing called TABOR. In Colorado, we have this revenue cap. So this chart right here, we're the Colorado Fiscal Institute. We love looking at charts and graphs, right? Including we even name our events after them. This coming Wednesday, next Wednesday, we have our end of session wrap up called Bars and Graphs. And our mid-session review is called Pies and Charts. So get on our email list, come with us. Yeah. So when we look at this chart, this is our fiscal year spending. Starting right now, this chart looks at from 2006 and then projections up until 27. Right now we are in fiscal year 24-25. We have that top line is our TABOR revenue cap, meaning that when we put in the fiscal year spending, which includes cash funds, as well as that general fund funding, so income tax and sales tax, and line it all up, we have this arbitrary cap that we have to follow and that we can only keep revenue below. Any revenue above that cap, we have to refund it to taxpayers. So while our state legislature had to figure out that $1.2 billion of shortfall, we are in a TABOR surplus situation this year, over $100 million. And one thing, too, to think about is that since 22, we've had to give back to taxpayers $8.5 billion in revenue instead of being able to keep it and invest it. So we are in quite the predicament. When I say structural deficit, I mean structural deficit. So looking at this year's legislature, knowing that there's 1 day left, the governor signed the state budget last week, Monday. The JBC, the Joint Budget Committee, worked all session long in figuring out how to cover that $1.2 billion shortfall. Did we do it? I don't know, it's a little murky. This budget process that our legislators are forced to do because of the constraints that they have within TABOR, they've had to figure it out and do some workarounds and really this opaque process of not really understanding if we actually made all the cuts that we need to do or not. Our senior economist at CFI just put out a blog. You should all read it, coloradofiscal.org. But he described this budget process as putting together this year's budget with bubblegum and duct tape. And I couldn't agree more. So our legislative, so how did they bridge that budget deficit and that shortfall for this year? We made some transportation funding cuts, meaning, the electric bus program, we had to make cuts to. Multimodal transportation, we had to make cuts to. And then something really interesting is that we had to lower car registration fees. And you're like, what, Caitlin? You just told me that we're in a $1.2 billion shortfall. Why are we lowering fees? Well, because when we go back to this chart, and I'll get to another image, the first thing at the bottom when we count our fiscal year revenue is those cash fees, right? So that cash fund. And then comes the general fund funding. And so whenever we bring in more cash funds, it pushes out more of that general fund funding. So when we lower fees, we can keep more of that general fund flexibility. Interesting, right? Workarounds. Another thing that we can see, we made some cuts to Medicaid. And when I say this, our provider rate, the reimbursement that the state gives to providers who provide Medicaid, we are reimbursing that at a 1.6% this year. Inflation is 4%. So while it doesn't seem like a cut, it's not as much as they need. Meaning that providers can then opt out and say, I'm not going to care yet for people who have Medicaid. Looking at school financing, 2 years ago, we passed a new school finance formula that asked the state to look at this 5-year average of per pupil count. This year, in order to cut some funding, the legislature decided to push back that 5-year count and only do a 4-year count, which helped save about $60 million. Okay? And we want that bigger average of per pupil count so we get a better picture of who's actually attending the schools so we can provide enough funding. We looked at some cash fund transfers, speaking of school funding, the BEST fund, which is made up of pot revenue and used for school construction, like HVAC systems. We were able to take some of that funding out of that cash fund to help bridge that gap. We looked at, the state was looking at the Healthy School Meals for All program. I need a little water. Which is a new program that voters voted in 22 to provide free breakfast and lunch for every public school student. Instead, they fell short, and the revenue that they were raising from the designated revenue source that we said yes to, and the state was going to cover and bridge that $30 million gap, but this year they're not able to. So that program is a little short. And then we also have some reduction in state workforce, meaning that the state is looking at not hiring for new positions, okay, not making mass layoffs. They're not doging everyone right now, hopefully. So those are just some of the workarounds that our state legislature found to help bridge that $1.2 billion gap. And so we know, like I said, this budget process, super opaque, super backwards, looking at workarounds. It's not really the way that we want to run our state, right? At CFI, we really want to advocate for a transparent and flexible budget process. One of the primary principles that we want to follow when we think about budgeting and tax policy is really flexibility and transparency. And we go back to, at CFI, that we know we have to address the real problem, where it's not just how the economy is doing, but also the rules that govern our tax code and that our legislature has to follow. And so we look at TABOR, the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, Article 10, Section 20 of the Colorado Constitution. Voters voted this in 1992, right? How many of you were here in 1992? About a third of you. You remember voting on TABOR? Yes, it sounds great. Let's vote on taxes. But is it? Are we budget experts? All right, let's go through the main provisions of TABOR, because really at CFI, we love to talk about the building blocks, and we broke down, while TABOR is 100 or 1,900 words, it does a lot, and it does a lot more than just these 4 provisions, but we're going to break it down into these 4 provisions so that you can all be TABOR advocates in a way of getting rid of it. First provision, it limits our legislators' ability to raise revenue. It limits our revenue collection. Kind of touched on that. We'll go into it more. It limits our tax options. And it sets election provisions. All right? So when we look at that first building block, it limits our legislators' ability to raise revenue. So really what this says is our legislators can't do much around our tax code. Tabor requires a vote of the people in order to change our tax code, in order to create new taxes or debt, in order to increase any taxes or debt, to increase any local property tax rates, and then any tax policy change that results in net new revenue for the state. Okay? So our legislators aren't able to do anything, and as they have to create and craft and pass a budget and look at how we are bringing in revenue, they can't, right? Their hands are tied. So when we think about Tabor, it really constricts what we can do and the flexibility that we can do to address a changing economy. It limits our revenue collection. Like I showed you in that chart, we have a Tabor limit. We have a revenue limit, okay? A revenue cap. So it limits how much revenue we can keep, not spend. It's not a spending limit. It's how much revenue we can keep by the rate of inflation plus population. So if inflation grows by 4%, population grows by 2%, that cap can increase by 6%, okay? But is it really the right formula? We at CFI don't think that this formula measures up for what government actually buys, right? This formula uses the consumer price index for inflation, which we know it's how we as consumers, what we buy, right? And looking at what that price increase is. But the government isn't that type of consumer, right? It doesn't buy toothpaste or eggs, right? It buys healthcare and education and roads. And that inflation, that cost is far more than the consumer price index. So we know that this formula just doesn't add up. And like, as I mentioned before, we are in a Tabor surplus situation, and we have been for the last few years, while we are in a budget deficit. When I told you that those cash funds are counted first, I'm hoping that this image is helpful. So think of cash funds. When we think of a bucket, our legislative coordinator does this one really well. But when we think of a bucket, and we want to put sand and water in it, those cash funds are the sand. The sand sinks to the bottom and pushes the water up, right? So when we have a limit where that spigot is, that general fund funding has to come out and has to be rebated to taxpayers, okay? So like this year, when we are in this $1.2 billion budget shortfall, it's not from the cash funds that are affected, right? It's that general fund. The priorities that our state is supposed to provide for everyone. And so what happens with that revenue that's over the cap? Our legislators get to decide how to return that money. That's one thing that they can do. And they have changed the ways since 1992, right? From 1992 to 1999, there was a laundry list of different tax credits that we were able to use when we were in a Tabor rebate situation. Over the last few years, we've made some changes, right? Currently, there are three-ish different mechanisms that our legislature has put in place. The first mechanism for any amount of revenue up to about, as you can see, like $200 million, it goes to our senior homestead exemption, property tax exemption, which is a tax credit, a property tax credit for seniors who've lived in their home for over 10 years. Okay, so it goes back to the counties. That doesn't go away if we're not in a Tabor rebate situation. It just comes out of our general fund. But when we are above that limit, we're able to use any money above that limit to help refund counties to give that property tax relief to seniors. And then we have a 6-tier sales tax rebate, which is that Tabor refund that you get when you file your taxes. All right, so that goes to all people who file a Colorado income tax form. And there's 6 different brackets. That's why we call it a 6-tier sales tax system. And the third mechanism is a temporary income tax decrease. So actually cutting taxes and tax revenue that we're bringing to the state for 1 year. Question?
So I noticed in your original bar graph, with the limit saying that in the last half decade, there's been a significant amount of surplus. Has somebody done the calculation of how much it's costing taxpayers today for getting that money back versus if they hadn't gotten that money back, but the basic worth of that would be to like all the services we provide? Like, are we, even though we're getting money back as a community, are we getting a net loss, and has someone kind of made that figure?
That is a good question. We haven't quite made that figure and done that calculation. But we have a lot of information of where Colorado ranks in our funding. Where in our sergeant teacher pay, we are almost dead last, right? Which we have one of the best economies in the nation, and we have the lowest sergeant teacher pay. Our per pupil funding is well below the average. And so just as this in this like structural deficit conversation, understanding of how much revenue that we're bringing in, and especially like in the last few years, especially since the pandemic, we got this influx of federal funding that really then made our state funding, we brought in way more revenue, and that's why we're seeing those very large Tabor rebates, right? And being above that revenue limit. And so that's something to also consider when we think about where we're at right now with our revenue. Since 1992, we've been in a Tabor rebate situation. I think it's now 13. I'm looking at Kevin because, like 13 different times. So it's not a given, right? It's not a given. And so especially right now, when we say Tabor, people are like, oh, that they give me money. Tabor gives me money, so I like it, right? But we just have to understand that Tabor is more than just a rebate, right? It has all these other different provisions to it. Okay?
If you didn't count pandemic money, on average, what would the actual rebate be if you took away the pandemic federal funding years and it averaged out like normal years? What is the average rebate?
That's really hard to determine, but it's been in the millions and not the billions. Yeah.
Yeah, on the sales tax or income tax reduction. So are those, you've got 4.25 for 24, 4.36 for 26, 4.29 for 27. Is that the rate, the actual?
Yep, that's the projected rate. Yep, so exactly. Yep, in what, 2024, I'm still looking at Kevin because he was part of this bill with us. It fluctuates depending on how much revenue is actually over the limit, just to help determine what that reduction would be. Before 2024, when we had three different mechanisms, it was an income tax rate reduction at a flat rate. But then voters in 2022 voted for our income tax rate to be even lower, temporary tax cut. So then the legislature addressed it and said, let's do it this way for right now.
So Governor Polis has consistently talked about eliminating the income tax. Is that going? He's insane.
I hope not. At the point of the Colorado Fiscal Institute, we believe that an income tax is really important for revenue collection. Yeah. Something that we fight with him a lot on.
What's the replacement for that?
So there are states that don't have an income tax that heavily rely on sales and property tax. But in Colorado, that just won't make sense. And, at CFI, where we look at and evaluate different tax policies, we know that really good, robust tax policy, income taxes are a really good form to especially get at wealth, right? And be able to tax wealth and help bridge that gap. Because we know sales tax is really regressive, meaning everyone is paying or a certain percentage of their income in sales tax, where income tax can actually look at how we can set it up in different ways, although in Colorado we can't because of Tabor of being able to address and make an equitable tax system, and what does that look like? So another provision of Tabor is that it limits our tax options. It says that all income must be taxed at the same rate. That is written in our Constitution. Okay? So that means we cannot have a graduated income tax, which would be able to tax the more you earn, the higher your tax rate would be. We cannot have a statewide property tax like other states have used as another provision of their tax code. We cannot have real estate transfer tax. So other like wealth taxes to really get at wealth. As a nation, since we started tax policy in the late 1800s, we've moved away from taxing wealth and really taxing income, which we know is super regressive. So Tabor is one in our Constitution really prohibited in what we can do in our tax options, where we'd have to go to the vote of the people.
Quick question about, so I've heard that in order to repeal Tabor, you would have to have 26 different ballot measures. Is it possible to vote out some provisions of Tabor? Like I know a lot of people are kind of favored the balanced budget part, so I would love to get rid of the graduated income tax part.
Yeah.
Is there a mechanism to do that, or do we have to get rid of all of it to get some of it?
Did everyone hear that question? So in 2018, CFI, as we were working on a ballot measure, did a lot of title board work. Before then, it was really under legal interpretation that we couldn't take Tabor out with one ballot measure. And in 2018, CFI, along with a robust coalition of other partners, put forward 35 different measures to the title board just to see what was possible. And one of those was a straight repeal of Tabor. And the title board came back and said no, but our lawyers said, no, we're going to challenge that. And we brought it to the Supreme Court. So we now have a court opinion that says, yes, you can actually take Tabor out of the state constitution with one ballot measure. You can also put different ballot measures on to strike different pieces of Tabor. Like that has been tried before. The most recent one was HH, actually failed. We also looked at, I keep looking at Kevin, I'm sorry. You're just like my tax policy person.
We've had some debrucing.
We've had debrucing. We also, in 2018, we put forward a graduated income tax. Unfortunately, it failed too. In 2020, we tried another graduated income tax and COVID killed that one. So there are different ways that we can continue to attack Tabor and different ways that different revenue tables and coalitions are actually looking to put more on the ballot to be able to address and pick apart Tabor in different ways. And so Tabor sets these election provisions, right? It requires the vote of the people on any new taxes, but it also requires how things show up on the ballot. It allows for odd year elections, right? So in Colorado, I can't remember the last time we didn't have an odd year election. Okay, I do. It was 2017. But it requires language for any tax increase or debt increase to show up in all capital letters, so it's yelling at you, and it has to start out with shall taxes be raised by the certain amount, the full year amount of revenue that it would collect, okay? It also requires that we send out a blue book, which is great, but in that blue book for any tax measure, it has to have not only the amount of revenue that it will raise, but also an economic projection. And if either of those are wrong, you have to go back to the vote of the people in order to keep all the revenue that it collects. So KK is this example here, but when we voted on II last year, it was for the tobacco tax that we already said yes to, but we just brought in more revenue than what the projections were projecting. So we had to go back to the voters and ask them again. And if we didn't do that, if legislators didn't refer that measure to the voters, then we would have to refund that revenue that we collected back to the payers, so back to the cigarette manufacturers, and reduce that tax rate to match. What a headache, right? Tabor 100% is the problem. We need to do something about it. And I added these slides. We're going to go back before I get into some of the actions and updates on legislative session, and I'm looking at my time, and I can wrap up in like a minute. But when we look at that federal fund, right, a third of that in revenue, any cuts to the federal budget that comes into the state, we're going to have a really hard time backfilling, meaning that those programs will likely, we will have to cut people off the programs in order to continue. So we have to be advocates, right? You all saw this slide. You know what's going on. Visit CFI for more information about the federal stuff. But we know that, challenges are opportunities. And one of the things that CFI is really, we need to make our voices loud. We need to talk about Tabor. We need to address the problem. We need to demand that our elected officials have bold conversations and stop skirting around the issue. We need to educate our communities. We need to do some deep canvassing. We need to talk about Tabor because voting on taxes, it sounds really good and appealing. Tabor rebates sound really good and appealing, but Tabor has taken away our division to imagine. Tabor rebates, we could do something different. We could still make sure people are getting revenue or tax refunds, right? In a different way, as long as we can implement fair taxes, right? In a graduated income tax, in wealth taxes, we can fully fund 4K or K-12 education. We can fully fund our preschool program. So we know that we have to look towards solutions. And one of the things that happened this year, sponsored by Representative Camacho and Representative Lorena, was one step towards it, towards a longer solution. An HJR 1023, which would allow the General Assembly to sue the state on the grounds that Tabor is unconstitutional, taking away their democratic right. They're given ability in the U.S. Constitution and the Colorado Constitution to make tax policy changes. Unfortunately, it was heard in one committee, but it has not been calendared, and we have 1 day left of session. We are very disappointed in this. We really would like a public conversation around Tabor to help address the issue, and we will be back with other solutions. So one of the things that CFI is really looking at is this long-term solution of how do we talk about Tabor? How do we continue to advocate and get more and more and more people to understand that Tabor is a restriction? So we have created these short-form videos called Tabor Tots. They're really cute, little different bite-sized ways of understanding Tabor and how it interacts with other things. We also have a Tabor Did You Know series, which we're calling Tabor, the Colorado Con, which is a weekly drop of just how Tabor affects you and the state. So sign up, get on that email list. And here is some more QR codes for Tabor Tots. Follow us on social media because we know, like as we are looking, we are bringing together more and more advocates around not just looking at the revenue of how we can change our revenue system and go for a progressive income tax or a wealth tax, but also addressing the bigger problem, Tabor. And so figuring out legislative ways, figuring out legal strategies, figuring out communication strategies, title board and ballot strategies. So we're looking at this all-encompassing approach to really tackle and dismantle Tabor.
All right, I think we have time for 2 or 3 questions. If you don't mind, I'm going to ask you the first one, which is, I agree with you on Tabor. One argument I've heard in favor of Tabor, or that's not right, downplaying the seriousness of the budget situation is that we were riding a sugar high through the pandemic. As Eagle mentioned, we had all these federal funds, and we decided to fund a bunch of programs using those federal funds, and now all that's happening is we're cutting those programs.
Is that true?
Accurate or not?
I would say no. I mean, a lot of the programs were relief programs and things to address, and we knew that it was one-time money, right? And so our legislators, while they did add more money or create different programs, we weren't able to put it towards K-12 funding, which has been, we haven't been at the standard, the constitutional required funding until last year. And this year, we are going to go back into another budget stabilization factor.
I
You're welcome. Well, stick with us because we'll talk more about Tabor.
The Democrats have a phenomenal majority in both the House and the Senate. Why can't the Democrats get the job?
Because it goes to the voters, Leo. And we have to sell
They
it.
didn't even get a hearing. Right?
We got one hearing, which a joint resolution didn't actually need a public hearing. It just needed a debate on the floor. I think that it's all about politics, right? I mean, Tabor having to vote on taxes or having to talk about getting rid of something that is, Colorado voters don't know enough about that they think is really good. And so taking a safe route of not getting it introduced or not having to have that public decision and have that public vote was partially in the way.
Who made the decision?
Leadership.
Robert Rodriguez?
Yeah, in both chambers is what I'm going to say. So contact your elected official, ask them to do something, and contact leadership and demand that we have real conversations. There is so much money that the opposition has that is pouring into trying to keep Tabor. The instant that the House Joint Resolution, which didn't really do much right now, except ask the courts to make a decision, which would have taken a few years, I'm sure, started immediately pouring money into districts, vulnerable districts. So we need to, one, as Democrats or progressives or thinking through, is figuring out how we can combat that. And two, being able to show up and hold our elected officials accountable.
Last question.
So there was a lawsuit
Yep.
to declare Tabor unconstitutional, and it was not successful.
Correct.
So how will this lawsuit be any different?
Good question. It looks like you might have the answer. Do you want me to answer it, or do you have another question?
Well, the way it was explained by Sean Camacho is that original lawsuit had the wrong plaintiff, and so it was sent back.
So yeah.
And they tried to cure that plaintiff, and they were not allowed. So they had to kill the lawsuit, and this is the first step to rebuilding that lawsuit with the correct plaintiff.
Yeah, because the court said that the legislature has the standing.
Correct. We're the first lawsuit, which was brought by Andy Kerr, former state representative and senator, and now county commissioner, in 2011. But the plaintiff was himself individuals, right, instead of the state legislature. So it said, oh, actually, you don't have standing. And that took until, 10 years later to figure out.
So you really need to.
Everybody, please give Caitlin a big round of applause.
Thank you.
I really hope everyone either signs up for their newsletter. I just went online and did it myself, Colorado Fiscal Institute. It was pretty easy. Or did one of those QR codes. Yeah, and starts really working on this. The other thing we were planning on doing tonight, we were planning on getting groups of people that wanted to work on different. Tyler, would you come up here? Well, not issues. That I still have for you guys to sign up for the issues. Tyler is the House District Captain for HD.
Hi, my name is Tyler Drum. I am one of the captains in HD7. And for about the past year and a half, we've been doing a lot. So we always hear, oh, you just come and show up as Democrats when you want us to vote. So we took that to heart in HD7, and we are doing a monthly community service project. So my husband is a Ukrainian refugee, and so a lot of our efforts have revolved around helping the refugee and immigrant community in HD7 in particular. So over the past year and a half or so, we've done, 2 times where we, so in HD7, there was one of the the refugee centers where they rented out a hotel and filled it with migrants, largely from Venezuela. And so we had multiple events supporting them and welcoming them as our neighbors into our community. So a lot of them, we noticed through our volunteering that they had all their belongings in bags and paper bags and trash bags. And so we had a drive to collect suitcases to give them. We also provided them meals on multiple occasions where we would all make sack lunches as a group and pass them out. We also heard some feedback in the community that people were upset because there was a lot of trash in that area. And so we went and had multiple days where we picked up the trash. Both these past 2 years for the holiday seasons, we've adopted multiple immigrant families to provide them holiday presents. We try to come up with a new thing every month, but sometimes it's hard to think of new things. So our default is we'll go pick up trash in our Democrat sweatshirts and t-shirts just to go be out in the community for people to see us doing good. And in this crazy environment where you feel like you can't do anything, making a small difference, no matter how big or small in your community, feels good. And so I just wanted to share that we've been doing that in HD7, and I will make sure to send you the information if you guys want to join us. Or we're kind of running out of ideas because we've been doing this for a year and a half and can't keep rotating through the same thing. So if you have any ideas of community service projects, last month we did dining out for Project Angel Heart. So they had a night where a bunch of restaurants were giving 25% of the proceeds to support Project Angel Heart. So that's what we did most recently this month. But if you have any other ideas of things that we could do, we would love to work together on it. HD6 and 7 are number neighbors and not too far apart from each other, so we should be working together. So I just wanted to share that. And
so in the newsletter, there was a survey where for us to provide benefit to either our community or we would maybe even go in with them. And I would love to have us do a blood drive. All of us buy a t-shirt and then go and donate blood with our Denver Democrat t-shirts on. So that, because we can't, they're nonpartisan, but we can show up in our t-shirts, right? So that was one of the I would love to see us planting trees. We have lots of ideas.
Well, it's not an idea. We started, I got a whole group of my block captains and everything, and we became part of the lottery cleanup group. And we do it on 1 day or 2 days a week. So we're already cleaning up our group.
Are you wearing Denver Democrat t-shirts? No. See, that's
we
what.
have to wear our little green things.
Safety. No, we do need safety. So we're not going to be able to do that tonight. We're not going to be able to meet tonight, but we're going to resend out the link. I'm going to ask anybody that is interested in doing anything to please fill this out. And if you would be willing to chair something, if you would be willing to be, like the main person that would be doing the organizing, of course, we would support. But, we do need people that are willing to, step up and start leading.
And we're supporting you by tape.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody has to take desserts home.
So we have desserts that need to go home. We have some chips, some juice.
We have all these chips. Take some.
And we need to collect the papers off the tables. Put them on that little table there.
Karen.
Oh, we have one last drawing. Let's see. Thank you. Oh, Judy. Judy Mead. She's going to go traveling. Judy. We need to pick up the chairs and put them away. We need to pick up the tables and put them away. And the pens, please put them over on the donation table.
Wow. No, that was actually, I love paper presentations. Love typing. Where's the door?